Hi, everyone. We're here with Michael McCreary. I am so excited about this conversation. I feel honored to have this conversation. I feel a bit starstruck because he's an amazing comedian. I've watched some of his latest skits, and I definitely tell everybody to do the same thing. Our topic is neurodivergence in popular culture, which I also think that we need to focus on a little bit more. And I'm going to just introduce myself, and I always need to read it. I don't know why I forget who I am, but then I'll do a bio for you, Michael. And please just, like I said, please just help me along the way if I say anything wrong or if you want to change anything. The floor is yours then, okay?
Thank you.
Uh, all right. So, welcome, first of all, to the Divergent discussions. My name is Carla. I'm a registered psychotherapist. I was trained as a psychologist. I'm clinical lead here at Kaboose, and I'm also a PhD researcher. Kaboose is for neurodivergent people and the organizations and communities around them. Kaboose is the platform that bridges the gap between lived experience and everyday reality through community built by people who get it and the practical guides designed to actually help wherever life takes you as a neurodivergent person or an ally. This is just a reminder that these divergent discussions are being recorded and they will be live on our YouTube channel. So if you missed this one, please do check them out. And I will also ask if there's any audience members and questions, if you can just add them to the questions section, the chat section, and then we will get to them. So now I'm going to do your bio, which is very impressive for your very young age. Michael McCreary is an autistic comedian, actor, author, and TEDx speaker who has been performing stand-up comedy and keynote presentations since the age of 13, which is remarkable in itself. And I just want to pause there and say that you're such an inspiration for other autistic and neurodivergent people in general for doing it at such a young age too.
Thank you.
That's ama-
Thank you.
that's amazing. Over the past decade, Michael has performed across Canada and the United States for major organizations, universities, schools, libraries, and autism-focused agencies. He's the author of Funny, You Don't Look Autistic, a humorous and insightful exploration of autism and public perceptions, and has appeared on CBC's The National and Laugh Out Loud. He was the featured comic in Commander Chris Hadfield's Generator show at Massey Hall. Is it Massey Hall?
Yep, that's correct.
In Toronto in 2016. He played the role of a neurodivergent character, Eggs, which I think is such a cool name, in the TV series Astrid and Lily Save the World on Sci-Fi Network. I think we're going to be talking about that as well a little bit later. I want to ask you about that. And he also can be seen in season 2 of Ginny and Georgia on Netflix. He adapted his book as a stage play, touring it across BC in 2025. In May 2022, he was part of the closing gala at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival for CBC. In May 2024, he performed an all-access show at the Halifax Comedy Festival, for which he is nominated for Canadian Screen Award for Best Writing, Variety, or Sketch Comedy. He's also currently working on another play, a new book, a documentary, and getting his driver's license. That's amazing. Those are so many things. How do you do it?
Well, thank you. I mean, how I do it with the just to clarify, Carla, you were so sweet in saying like, and you're so young. I just want to clarify for the viewer, I am 30 years old and I don't have a driver's license. So that's kind of that's the takeaway that I always have from that bio. So
Oh, see, this is the thing, and I think we do this so often as neurodivergent individuals, is you've accomplished and you're accomplishing so much, and we focus on like the one thing that we think, oh, but I don't have a driver's license. It's like whatever. Like you'll probably be able to, like, I don't know, ask any of your fans to drive you around and they would.
that is incredibly sweet of you. I mean, I'm kind of lucky right now because since the pandemic, I've been living with my folks and
Hmm,
they both drive. So,
that's
and they're relatively young. So, I'm getting my driver's license now, just in the event, knock on wood, crisis strikes. But I can't foresee anything happening in the next little bit. So, just trying to
out
be
of
proactive there.
I think you're gonna be great with that too. You'll probably make the driving license instructor laugh while you're driving, so they'll just give it to
That's
you.
it. I mean, I hope I don't because I want them telling me, "No, don't do that." Like I want like I'm trying to avoid manslaughter charges. So,
That must be hard though, right? Because people see you as this, like, because I told you from like when we just met now, you're incredibly friendly and nice. You're just a nice person. And it must be hard because you probably have this persona, like everyone just thinks that you're either funny or nice. Like, do you feel sad sometimes? Do you feel like, oh, you can't be sad? Like,
That's
because
that's a very sweet question. No, it's like I don't think anyone puts that kind of pressure on me. I think honestly, everyone's that I've met is generally quite amiable and accommodating. But like the difficult thing sometimes, and I've experienced this less, but I know people in my orbit, my friends who are also neurodivergent, they've definitely had this where because they've displayed a baseline level of competency and sort of like a rehearsed level of social skills, when they do ask for accommodation, suddenly people are like, "What? I thought you were normal." And it's just like, and then it's like two steps forward, one step back. It's almost like you've kind of sweep kicked yourself at not even like no fault of your own because you've displayed like such proficiency at a number of things that when you ask something, people go, "What?" I've been lucky that I haven't really ever experienced anything like that. Like I only experienced one thing once, and this was like years ago. I did a show. I won't name the organization because the organization itself was lovely. It was just one volunteer, but
Mm.
I remember I asked the organizers just because one of the ways that I sort of struggle with my neurodivergence is that, and I can't speak for all autistic people because obviously it's a spectrum, but the way that it affects me is that I I I send a command from my brain to the rest of my body, and it just takes a little bit longer to get there if I'm in an environment that is overstimulating. So like if I'm like if there's some kind of issues that I'm having with like what with sound, with visuals, whatever, like it makes it difficult for me to do my job, which is, talking to people, but I find coping strategies to work around that. So in kind of a banquet hall setting or like at a gala dinner fundraiser thing, I usually ask, "Hey, could I go on before or after dinner?" Just because if there is so much pervasive sound, which I think, even not like neurotypical people would agree, like they'd be distracted. But for me, I'm like, no, it's like putting, like it's like putting boots on a cat. Like for me, I'm like, no, it's just I won't be able to do my job to the best of my ability. So most organizers have been super cool, going like, yes, we will have it before or after. Um,
Okay.
but this one time I asked, and the organizer was really cool. But when I was in the bathroom, just like running my lines, I overheard one of the other volunteers just being like, no, we have to wait till dinner's over because apparently the comedian is so effing funny." And they thought it was like an ego thing. And I was like, "No, it's like you paid for me to do a job and I want to give you your money's worth." So that kind of sucked. But that's like the only time
Yeah, sorry about
that
that.
I've
I think
ever.
like yeah, I think we also like sometime sorry for interrupting you there. Um
No, didn't at all.
okay. Yeah. But I think sometimes, like it's also they don't it's a misunderstanding sometimes and it's not a nice thing to say to any person about any person. Um I think we're actually going to be talking about misunderstandings, and like the how you deal with those, and if you've ever had any misunderstandings. But I'm sorry that yeah, that happened. That person probably had a really bad day, and they were trying to find a way to vent, and it wasn't nice.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, like the tough thing about situations like that is that people are just going off what they know and what they might do. So I think from their point of view, they're just like, "Oh, this person thinks they're so important. They need the whole of it." And it was just like, "Well, you're doing a fundraiser for people like me."
yeah,
So
exactly.
I
It
think you'd
should
be a
not.
little bit more familiar
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
cause, but whatever. So that was weird.
Yeah. When you grew up though, like it was probably very different, right? So like just
Yeah.
autism in general, but and the understanding of autism, how did it compare to the way that autism was portrayed in the media, like when you grew up? and versus portrayed in the media?
Yeah, so when I was really young, I got my diagnosis, which was great because my folks were able to help me and kind of course correct with some things because suddenly they were like, "Oh, we now have a scientific reason for why they freak out whenever they put on like a t-shirt instead of a long sleeve shirt."
Yeah.
Because now they're like, "Oh, their brain can't reconcile the difference in textures between their exposed forearm and their unexposed bicep," as like an example. Or they're like, "Okay, now I know." They're gonna wear like now I understand that they don't like wearing socks with stitching that ends up getting between their toes or under their toes. Like, okay, we'll find like a kind of stitching pattern that can accommodate them better. So that was really good for me. So that was like 90% of my issues covered, and my folks were so good about that.
Right.
Um, so that's where I was at. So I like it's funny, everyone in my in my parents' immediate circle was aware that I was autistic, and because most of my needs had been met, I wasn't having meltdowns or displaying anything that would kind of betray like an obvious difference between me and any other kid. Like the thing about being a kid in the early 2000s and being an autistic kid in the early 2000s is that it's just a Venn diagram in terms of your special interests. Like most autistic people that have their interest in popular culture, which obviously we're going to talk about in depth today in
Mm.
greater detail. Um, you're like into the thing that a lot of people in the monoculture are into. The difference is that everybody else grows up and moves on, and you might hyperfixate on this for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So that's that. But so that was my experience with a lot of things. So basically, up until I was like a teenager, no one really noticed or clocked anything. They were just like, "Oh, you just really like Pokemon." And like, you know what I mean? Everyone liked Pokemon, but they're just like, "Oh, you just know all their names." Like they were just like, "All right, whatever. You like this a little bit more than we do," but it wasn't too suspect. Um, but yeah, sorry, I didn't answer your question at all, which was the difference between autistic representation when I was a kid
Right.
versus now.
Yeah,
Um,
so just what was your understanding of autism, and how did that compare to the way that autism was represented in the media? So if there
yeah,
would,
that's a really good question. Okay, so like we're going off of like I think the DSM-4 had come out by that point, but I would need to check my stats and facts on that. But autism there was like a huge boom in diagnosis in the very early 2000s because the initial autism diagnosis in the DSM-3 was more in line with the media depictions of autism,
Mhm.
like in and around that time. So things like, Rain Man, even though retroactively a lot of neurologists look at that depiction and go, actually, because it's a composite of a lot of people that weren't even necessarily diagnosed with autism, they see it as more like a savant syndrome type thing.
Mhm.
Uh, but uh, but generally speaking, a lot of people looked at autism as something. They looked at it less as like it wasn't entirely that it was inaccurate, it was that they were just looking at, one part of the autistic population, so one part of the spectrum. So people like my little brother who, before he passed away tragically,
I'm so
in
sorry.
2018. No, no, I appreciate your sympathies. He exhibited more severe characteristics where, like, he was just, like, he was nonverbal. He needed 24/7 support from my folks in terms of things like getting dressed and going to the washroom and stuff like that. But all of this came back to the same thing that affected me, which was an inability to reconcile a myriad of sensory stimuli. So,
Mhm.
like for me, I was hypersensitive, as you know about the t-shirt thing, and Matthew was hyposensitive. So that meant that like his senses were dulled, and he needed like more extreme sensory experience to feel things. So my parents had to like watch him like a hawk to make sure that he wasn't hurting himself or that he wasn't
Mhm.
like scalding himself or anything like that. So that was more what media depictions at that time were,
Right.
where like it was mostly like you had characters who were particularly severe, but as is the case with like Rain Man, you look at movies like Mercury Rising or Silent Fall. Usually in those movies, the autistic character is someone who is privy to something, but
Mhm.
because they were more like my little brother Matthew, they didn't have any means of easily articulating it. to their guardian or to their loved ones. So it was basically these were kind of movies that almost treated an autistic person as like and excuse the invocation of this reactionary trope, but it was the era of the puzzle piece iconography, and they literally turned autistic people into puzzles and narrative, where they were just like, okay, what is the constant workaround? What is the problem that I need to be solved? As opposed to it like being like, I mean, and that's an issue in of itself, saying the autistic character is a problem needing to be solved, as opposed to it being like, okay, what are the as opposed to just going, okay, what would the story be from the perspective of the autistic person? More often than not,
Exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
neurotypical. Yeah, it's from a like, it would be Bruce Willis in Mercury Rising going, okay, this kid has broken the this kid has solved like the imitation game or whatever. This kid's like Alan Turing, but they're like semi like they're not exactly non-speaking, but they're obtuse, so we gotta, like, find a way to solve that. Or in Silent Fall, which if you ever get a chance is like a like, trigger warning, it's not accurate. It's a deeply stupid movie, but, like, that movie is just 90% like Richard Dreyfuss, looking at this kid who saw his parents murder, but he can't say who they were because non-speaking autistic kid, and it's just Richard Dreyfuss going like, "What's going on in there? What's going on? What's going on in there?" And it's like and it's just like that for 2 hours. So that was most autistic like characterization at that time. Like, but that was uh, like I don't know exactly what I would say would be. I think Rain Man would be. Rain Man's not the best in terms of accuracy. Rain Man is the best in terms of this is a competent film
Mm,
with like very clearly
yeah.
with like very clean stakes and solid performances. Like and I'm actually not talking about Dustin Hoffman in that because
Mm,
that sets a template for a sort of like for a type of performance that everyone and their grandma has like made fun of. Um like I'm talking about like Tom Cruise is kind of on fire in that movie, just playing a total dirtbag. But again, because that's a character with agency who has to make choices and is kind of allowed to suck. He's almost like Pattinson in Good Time, exploiting his neurodivergent little
Wait,
brother.
hold on. Wait, can I just ask you,
Yeah.
is this another special interest of you, like movies references?
Yes, I love pop culture. Like I'm a huge pop culture dork. So like, but that's the thing. I lucked out because my interest, even though people talk to me long enough and they're like, "Oh, you're different about this," like they just go,
You
like
like
you're
really love it.
Yeah, exactly. But I lucked out because I have a fairly general interest, like an interest that is fairly broad as opposed to something that's really niche. Because like a lot of my friends are that are autistic are really into things like engineering and science and physics and stuff like that. And so people are just like, oh, yeah, like that like the average person struggles to relate to like the fabric of the universe, which is what my friends are really into. But me, I'm just into something that's like I just talk to people like, you want to talk about back rooms or obsession or whatever, and people are like, oh yeah, okay. So like I can hold my own in like kind of polite nothing conversation better
And
than some of my friends, just because the special interest is very general.
yeah,
But if you want to go
and it
deep, I love
like
going deep.
and it's liked too. I think that your interests are liked by so many people. So like not just because it's general, but it's pop culture. Like a lot of people
Right.
will love talking about comedy or music or movies. I want to go over to my second question because otherwise we're going to be sitting here for 4 hours, which I would love, but I don't think you
Yes,
have the time. I think we need to we need to go to the
it's
next one.
very kind of you.
Yeah, but Michael, I just want to, on the side note, I do want to say I'm really, really sorry about your brother passing. I'm really sorry about
Oh,
to hear that.
I really appreciate that. No, it was like, but actually going into that, the difficult thing about like my brother passing, obvious, like going past the immediate shock for me and my family who loved him very much, is that there was kind of a flattening of his personality, just in the way that people kind of go like you just think, I mean, we were just talking about Oscar bait, right? Kind of with
Mm,
neurotypical actors playing neurodivergent characters. And it's like, oh, you couldn't ask for a more Oscar baity scenario of just like a neurodivergent young person dies. Like that and like everyone flattens that out into kind of like in the arms of the angels, like kind of thing. And I'm like, terrible. I'm like, Matthew was complicated. He was funny and he could be really loving. He could also be really cruel because he was a person who just had it within
Okay.
him to experience a spectrum of emotion, right?
Yeah.
So, that's something that I try to reiterate in my storytelling and in my comedy. Like whenever I talk about Matthews, I tell people up front like that he passed, but I need to get that out for context sake because I'm like, just so you know, I his life was not tragic. Like what was tragic was that he had a life and and he was just so funny, but funny in a way that wasn't like, oh, Matthew, funny in a way where it was like, Matthew, God, why would you do that? Like it was just things that are retroactively funny but very annoying in the moment that he definitely thought he was hysterical for doing because he had a great sort of like cynical sense of humor. But he was like Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. Like he was a stinker, you know, like he like pranking and causing mischief, which is super annoying to live with. But he was like
Yeah.
but that's something that I miss, you know, because
Mm,
that was a person in my life who was animated and so funny. And,
yeah.
uh, and the tough thing is that, like, while we have seen a progression in terms of, like, autistic characteristics in popular culture, like, autistic characters in pop culture, like, now we'll get into this, obviously, but, now we see people that are more kind of like me at my end of the spectrum, but I think we've completely left behind people like my little brother that didn't get to have their day in the sun as, like, instead of it being like, "Oh, this is a joyless characterization of a person whose life sucks." Instead, it's like, "No, this was a person who was, who was complicated. It was an interesting character in his own right and was very funny, albeit kind of in an impish sort of way."
Mhm.
So to me, I was like, I would love to see a character like my brother, like, be the main character or something because he would be awesome. He's like Bugs Bunny. Like, he was great.
I'm gonna send you an Instagram page. I can't remember the name now, but it's about my autistic brother, and it's a guy filming his brother, and just the stuff that he gets on up to, and it's hilarious. I think you would appreciate this Instagram page, even if you just like search for my autistic brother, but I'll send it to you afterwards.
Sure, I'll
I'll
look
send it.
into it.
I'll add it here too because I
Sure.
can't remember it now. Okay, so let me go to the second question of our long list of questions.
I am
Where?
so sorry.
No, it's not you. It's not you. It's definitely me because I'm asking all these like random questions in between. Were there any TV shows, movies, books, or public figures that helped you feel seen as a young autistic person that you really related to?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm glad you asked because what's always funny about this is that so I was just talking about how that was the kind of median archetype for autism in like the late 90s, early 2000s, the post Rain Man, like, what is the gimmick here? What is the workaround? What is the problem to be solved? Like, which is really unfortunate. I I think a lot of autistic people sort of identified with characters that were other, just in general, like were aligned with the other, or like, I mean, there's a really great chapter in Steve Silverman's book, Neurotribes, where he talks about a sort of fandom in the early 20th century and how fandom was built out of people mailing in to and getting each other like getting on a mailing list and reaching out to each other through like kind of weird tales magazines, stuff like that, just like horror anthology, speculative fiction, sci-fi short magazine features, stuff like that. And there's a whole section of that chapter on a movement called fans or slans, which came about when a lot of people loved this serial called Slan, which was very much like a prototype for the replicants in Blade Runner, where they were sort of like, I'm probably gonna mess this up, where they're like kind of they're humanoid characters, but they're kind of like the mutants in X-Men. So they're like kind of a thinly veiled allegory for just being the other. It wasn't as overt as like I think Chris Claremont's X-Men, which is making all these parallels to the civil rights movement and stuff like that. But in that story, they were very much characterized as just like, oh, people that are like other people, but aren't given the same quality, like that aren't given like the same treatment or same access to like decency and grace from other people. So what was kind of interesting to me was like going reading that and going, okay, what did I identify that with like when I was a kid? And it was all characters that were like not written as autistic, not written as by people that or conceived of by people that identified as autistic, but people who nonetheless I related to. So, like, there was a movie I really loved, that I saw when I was at an arts camp that I really loved called Centauri Arts Camp. And in my first year, I took a film class and yeah, me, right? And so they and they did a feature just on how to use suspense and all like suspense and thriller filmmaking techniques and non-thriller movies. So like how to keep people like so they showed us a clip from a movie called Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler, and
Uh,
what was amazing about it was that even though that is not a movie written as like a film about an autistic guy, I was like, this is the first time I've ever like felt seen by a movie because the way that that film is shot and specifically how it is mixed, like in terms of the sound editing and the sound design, I was like, this is what it's like to be me. Where just every time he's walking by a door, very briefly, you kind of get a flash on the stereo sound effect, like, of just what is happening on the other side of that door. You're just kind of constantly bombarded with some new piece of, like, audio information that is very brief, very sudden, kind of annoying, but it's just these great, like, long takes that kind of follow Adam Sandler as he's walking through a space and talking to people and just, like, being hit with something new and, like, trying to volley that, and I was like, "That's incredible that they captured that." In a movie where that wasn't the sell. The joke of that movie was just, what if you put the Adam Sandler comic character in the real world? Wouldn't that be kinda messed up? Like, that would be it wouldn't be necessarily whimsical, it would be kind of, like, kinda dark and sorta
yeah.
sad and alienating, but nonetheless, I loved it. I was like, "This is great."
That's awesome, though. That's great that you could connect and relate to a character that's written probably from some other perspective. I think it also makes
Yeah.
more sense, right? Because it's like if somebody should analyze my ADHD and depict it on screen, I would constantly feel like, no, that's not right. This is wrong. This needs to
Yeah.
change. It's a little bit more, it's too detailed and it's too specific. Whereas I related really well, and I still do with superhero movies as well, like you said, like
Yeah.
Marvel and those kind of things. Like I'm like, oh, I'm really like this character, and I've got Wolverine's rebelliousness, and like all of these different characters. I kind of mush it together, and I'm like, oh, this is my ADHD. So I think it makes more sense to focus less on the label so much and more just on like what did you actually relate to, who did you relate to, but also
Yeah.
the opposite, right? Like were there any portrayals that made you feel misunderstood or invisible at the time?
It was like because I had my little brother with me, when I would see a movie, even if it was bad, like or bad sounds harsh, like, even if it didn't land with me, I would still kind of give the film the benefit of the doubt of just going like, "Oh, well, autism's a spectrum, and we just happen to keep seeing this one type of autistic person." So to me, it kind of was like water off a duck's back because it was so different from my behavior and how I felt in the world that I just kind of went, "Oh, it's just a different person." But, like, this kinda gets back to something that you said that was really interesting, uh, about the labeling thing, because while I find labels incredibly useful for myself, like, just to identify myself as autistic because if people do know what that entails, then that's like shorthand, right? Like, where people just go, "Okay, got it." Like, I sort of have an idea of how I can accommodate you and help you. Uh, but in, like, movies, what I think is really kinda crucial is that so many other neurodivergent people that I like and recognize, uh, demonstrate demonstrate their empathy by looking at someone that has a totally different life and experience, even if they are fictional, and going, "I see myself in that." And I think that's kinda great because, like, one of the tricky things with some folks, and I'm sympathetic to them, is when they're watching something and it's just kinda like, "Well, I don't like this because they didn't just come out and say that the character is this." And I go, "They were, unfortunately, probably not writing that with that thing in mind, just by virtue of the fact that, like, I think that I mean, I just think we would have more nuanced depictions of ASD if there were more people with ASD working in, arts and entertainment, like, like, on a more public scale, but that's a different answer to a different question. But, like, I think a lot of people kinda go, like, I don't know, like, I concern sometimes where people are like, "I really wish this character was just called autistic so that I could say so I could claim this. And I go, "You can claim them anyways." That's what's amazing about, like, readings in film. I mean, like, an example that I get into is like queer readings of film are so cool to me because like there are so many people that were closeted in Hollywood that made, commercial art that people really connected with that have like a lot of queer coding in them that's kind of implicit that they had to be very nuanced about because of things like the Hays Code, cracking down on stuff like that. But also, there's a lot of things that the queer community has kind of claimed as their own that wasn't necessarily made with queerness in mind. But that's what's kind of beautiful about art is that things can
Mhm.
be made and you can, by complete happenstance, go, I see myself in this or I relate to something
Mhm.
like this. So, kind of like with queerness, I think there are readings that you can make with.
You just cut out there for a little bit, but I think I heard the ending. Yeah. Flash. Oh, okay. Okay. No, no, I think we're still live, so no, it's all good. Yeah, yeah, all good. Okay, I'm gonna go over to the portrayals. How, or actually, my question is gonna be how have or oh, your screen is way clearer now, by the way. It's like it's not so.
Amazing. Crazy.
This is
Not so
great.
pixelated.
Yeah, pixelated. It's so much better. How have the portrayals of autism and neurodivergence changed for you since you first began speaking publicly about your experiences? Has it changed?
I mean, yeah, like that's that kind of gets back to my the question that you asked earlier, where I was sort of comparing like there are more people like me than before, I would say. Like, and what I mean by that is like I remember I didn't necessarily like either of these movies, but it was kind of interesting seeing autistic characters used in like a genre story as opposed to a drama story. And what I mean by that is like a drama can be about anything, so can a genre story, but a genre movie usually has, like, a sense of urgency and obvious physical stakes, and I mean, genres like action, thriller, comedy, whatever, horror, there are, like, different rules that you can kind of mix and match, so it's like you airlift a person with a very specific experience into, like, a horror movie, you're suddenly bringing in the baggage of a bunch of other horror movies in relation to the thing, that that character is going through, if that makes sense. So it's like about people go like, "This is a queer horror movie," or I haven't really seen very much neurodiversity, or overt neurodiversity, like textual neurodiversity in horror movies, but that would, lead to, like, more interesting dialectical implications than just another drama about a neurodiverse person. Just because you're like, well, I know there are so many different horror movies and so many different horror subgenres. How does this subject relate to those genres? In what way? And I've noticed that there are more genre stories in film and television with neurodivergent like characters in them. So like The Accountant is like a trashy sort of released early in the year genre action programmer,
You did
but
you
it's
didn't like
about an
that?
autistic guy. Oh, so here's my thing about that movie. I
Yeah.
didn't love the movie because I thought the movie was kind of boring. I actually think that character rocks. And what kind of caught me
Well,
off guard about that character was I thought that it was gonna be very much like, he is preternaturally gifted at something, and it's this sort of like uh, archaic depiction of autism, which falls into the savant syndrome kind of conflation, where it's like, oh, he's just good at math. And it's like, no, what's kind of amazing about that story is that he likes numbers and numerology and mathematics and is lucky that he finds a mentor that is also interested in that subject and kind of helps him incubate something. So like while he's in jail with the mentor character. Like the Ben Affleck character is taken under the wing of the Jeffrey Tambor character, I believe, and Jeffrey Tambor basically teaches him like like he effectively teaches him how to be a white collar criminal, but he's also teaching him just like life essentials in terms of mathematics, and he locks on to that and that activates him and excites him. And the fact that we see an autistic character putting the legwork into developing a skill is so rare in these things, where it's just like they're I mean, like autistic people, I always joke, are kind of like their depictions so often is like children in 90s movies that are just good at computers for no reason. Like it's like Jurassic Park where it's like a Unix system. I know this. Like that's just every autistic character where it's like, yeah, they have that one thing to justify why they're here. That's their one skill. But like in The Accountant, this is kind of it's like an awkward step in the right direction of what I want from these movies where it's like an autistic lead um, we actually see him learn things and get better at things. We see his journey there. There's this kind of great moment where his coworker explains his own joke back to him, and he looks really like he's like you it's really subtle. He's like annoyed, but he's like, there's nothing I can do about it. Whatever, you made up your mind about me and my deal. It's like a very funny moment. And I'm like, yeah, I would take The Accountant over The Good Doctor any day. Like that is like something that I look at and I go, this is awesome. I love this.
Actually same,
But
eh?
but
Yeah.
but The Good Doctor exists in the same world as The Accountant, where it's like, oh, we airlifted in like a neurodivergent character into a hospital drama, as opposed to just this is a drama about living with autism. Instead, it's just like, oh, this is a weekly medical procedural where you're dealing with patients. Uh, like every day, which I mean, for the record, when The Good Doctor was announced, I was cautiously optimistic. I don't know why. And like, listen, I'm a surgeon. Dr. Han was just a glimmer in our eye at that point. Like, we didn't know what was to come. Uh, but like that show was kind of a disappointment for me because I was like, this is so cool. Like, we're gonna be seeing ER from the perspective of someone that kind of has people against them from the outset because of preconceived notions about his neurological makeup. So I thought the show was going to be about a guy who is good at his job, kind of fighting uphill battles every day, not with his own diagnosis, but with preconceived notions about how he works and operates. And to my credit, the show is about that. Unfortunately, the show is also about Freddie Highmore doing that voice. So I'm just like, oh man. And also like it's kind of a show about like what if an autistic guy was just a computer learning to love. So like every episode is just him having like a new it's framed as like sort of comic every episode is like a very special episode of The Good Doctor, which is the other unfortunate thing where it's like, oh, here's the episode where he learns how not to be racist. And it's like the way it's kind of framed is almost like, no, he's not racist. He's just like really analytical, like a computer. And I go, no, you cannot conflate like autism with bigotry. Like that's awful. So it's like,
Yeah.
no, he's not like malignantly misgendering this child. He's just wired differently. And I go, no, like those are like, you know what? If they just had the bravery to go, well, The Good Doctor's just a bigot. It is like he is autistic and a bad person. I go, you know what? Those do exist. Just because the world is huge, there are so many people. There are so many autistic people that I love, and there are autistic people I know that I do not like, and not because of autism, but because of their personality. It's fine.
Personal, exactly.
That's the
And that's,
spectrum.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, and that's
progress.
those are exactly, and that's also two different things. Like I think speaking about doctor shows, like I would say Doctor House is way more to me somebody relatable than the Good Doctor. Like, and I can also see a lot of traits in Doctor House where I'm like
Yeah.
very rigid in his thinking, like same things. He wants to prove his point, and it's never been, I don't think, in the series said that he might be on the spectrum.
Yeah,
To
because
me, I,
he has like a painkiller addiction is his thing, right? Like that's
yes,
kind of his thing.
exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I love Dr. House. I have
It's great.
such a little crush on that doctor. Anyways, shouldn't say that out loud. I
You
want to go
can't
over
like
to our
there's nothing wrong with saying that Hugh Laurie is hot on House MD. I'll say it. I'll say
No,
it to make you
okay.
feel less
But
alone. In
okay,
solidarity.
but listen, you Laurie as Dr. House. Like if he's
Yes,
Breck's character
specifically.
to me, I'm like, no, please stay Dr. House. Please just stay that person.
I'm not saying you're like, I don't have a crush on Hugh Laurie in 101 Dalmatians.
Exactly. No, I just
Yeah.
want to as Dr. House. Anyways, okay, I'm gonna go over to my next question. You've spent many years sharing your experience, obviously, through comedy, acting, and public speaking. For neurodivergent people specifically, who see parts of themselves reflected in your work, what impact do you think that that kind of representation can help or have on their sense of identity and self-understanding?
Oh, well, my favorite part of every show I've ever done is like the talk back with the audience. Like we don't always have that with my shows just because, time permitting. But my favorite part of every show is getting to talk to other autistic people after the show. Because it
Nice.
just is it's just like cool. I've already kind of opened the door to talk about our experiences collectively and to vent about stuff that annoys us, to talk about, like, stuff that we like, info dump about our special interests. Like, honestly, it's like I kind of like being an icebreaker, like, if that makes sense, just to talk about some things that
That's
might
awesome.
stimulate conversation with people. That's the role that I like to occupy, which is just like, "Hey, I can throw some things out there that encourage people to, you know, talk about things with like with me or with each other. That's always how I frame it. But talking about like being a role model and stuff like that, it's not lost on me that I'm like, oh God, I might be like someone's first openly autistic person that they're talking to or whatever. So like there is that part of me in the back of my mind where I'm like, okay, I can't mess this up. Like so that I don't want to bring the baggage of me or a negative interaction with me into the next autistic person. There is a part of me that's kind of like, okay, be on my best behavior on stage and the way that I conduct myself with people. But what I do kind of love about my shows is that there usually are several autistic people in the audience that identify themselves either during like I do like a riff with the audience usually like I do a bunch of crowd work and so inevitably there will be parts where autistic people say something during the show and then it's kind of fun because it sort of illustrates the thing that I'm trying to communicate which is that yeah we are all kind of different and the best thing that you can do to accommodate an autistic person is not come in with preconceived notions and just ask normal questions, just like, "Hey, can I help? What do you need help with?" You know what I mean? Like, just really talk to an autistic person the way you would talk to your neighbor if they had a flat tire. You know what I mean? Like, weird coming from me, someone without a driver's license. But you know what I mean? Hypothetically, this fabled, altruistic blue collar person just going like, "Hey, how can I help?" Like, that's kind of what I like to put out there. Um,
I think you are doing an amazing job by being inspirational to people, just as a person, Michael. And I've only known you for 42 minutes or so, but
well,
just
thank
being
you.
yourself, I honestly think that if somebody goes to your shows, they'll feel like happier about themselves with whatever diagnosis, if they don't have a diagnosis, just hanging out with you. So I think you're doing an incredible job. You can also
Thank
bring
you.
sadness to your shows too. Like I'm always like, so my friend is a comedian and she always tells me, she's like, "Oh, I'm always supposed to be funny, you know, and I know the toll that it takes on her. So just letting you know that I hope that you have some people where you can just really just be your complete self."
Oh, I do, and they are sick of me.
Well, I mean,
Like,
we're here at
again with
Kaboose.
this.
You can take some of
You're
that
very
energy to
kind.
Kaboose as well.
You're very kind, Carla.
What I want to talk about misconceptions. Are there any misconceptions that you've personally encountered throughout your career that continue to surprise you? And how do you usually navigate those? I know that we touched
So
on it in the beginning.
we did, yeah. I don't know. Were we rolling at that time when we were talking about the one gig I
I
do?
don't know. Yes, yes, we did. Yes, yeah, we were.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, we're rolling. Great. Yeah. So there was something like that. Like I remember there was one other instance where someone with a bit of intentions, she was a first responder, who I believe had worked with like neurodivergent people in the past. But I think her performance is up for review after what happened with me because I was like, I was doing a comedy show at a gig that she was at as one of the volunteers, and I was out pacing in the foyer away from the stage uh
Mm.
because I needed to like get like as any performer would do they're just like yeah I just need to run the first 2 or 3 minutes of my set just to make sure that like I'm not coming on cold and I was doing that and I like to be out there because I can't think if I'm in the audience watching the show because I'm distracted. I can't think. I'm like, I can't think about what I'm going to say because I'm listening to what the person on stage is saying and everyone else laughing and muttering and stuff like that. But this person came out and found me, and I guess they assumed that I was like freaking out or whatever. I was just talking to myself just because I was running lines. Like I wasn't, sorry, let me clarify. I wasn't talking to myself. I was running lines, but she saw me and She, grabbed me by the arm and said, "We go to the stage now." And I just was like, "What?" And but here's the thing, and I wanted to say, like, "F off, lady," but I couldn't did because I did forget where the stage was, so I just had to kinda go with her. And I was just like,
Oh.
"Well, whatever, I'll eat this one," which
Did
is a
she
bummer,
when
but,
she was touching you?
I mean, that's what was so funny about it was that she was like, earlier in the evening, I was talking to her, and she was basically normal to me earlier on, and she was like, "Yeah, I've, like, worked with autistic people as a first responder," and I said, "Hey, you're doing good work, thank you," and then afterwards, I was like, "Oh my god, is this what you always do?"
Yeah, it's way too much. Like, come on, like, calm down.
Also,
It's
like,
also
cause like, yeah, I'm like like, I know a lot of autistic people where that's a red flag, like, just grabbing someone without, asking.
yeah,
That's not one for me, but in that moment, I got it. I was just like, rude? Like, who are you? Who
yeah.
are you?
Uh,
Let go.
well,
Unhand
I'm
me."
I am one of those people, if somebody just touches me, and even if I know it's coming, there's like an automatic response because I do a lot of combat sports. So there's an automatic
Yes.
response of, I am gonna
Oh.
take you down.
Oh, and, like, the funny thing was when she grabbed me, I think she didn't intuit, like, my response as, like I thought she was just like, "Oh, they're doing au like, the oh, yes, autistic body language," and I was responding more like I don't know if you've seen Arrested Development when, like, Buster will just come up behind people and do this. I was just like, "No, Buster." Like, that was more it. I was like, "No, Buster."
Don't touch it. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
"Leave me
definitely a
alone."
miscon that's like,
Mm.
to know that, first of all, just like you said, like, just speak to us like normal people and ask us if we need help. Maybe we do, maybe we don't, maybe you need help. Like,
Oh, because what was
just
so
be
funny about it was
normal.
I just, like in that moment, what blew me away, Carla, was I was just like, "Your organization hired me to do this job. Why would you
Yeah,
assume that I, a professional, would let this happen to myself?" Like, whatever thing you thought in that moment, I was like, "What? Like, you're paying me to be here. I
yeah.
took a
But
flight to be here." Yeah, exactly, it was crazy.
but also, I mean, let's say you were freaking out. That's not something you do. You don't force somebody then on stage. Like, if she was thinking that you were freaking out, she should not say, "Oh, let's go to the stage." Like,
Oh, yeah, actually, I don't know if you saw the new Joaquin Trier movie that was, Sentimental Value, but at the beginning when, like, the lead when she's, like, having a panic attack before she goes on stage, if the director came out and said, "We go to the stage now," she
yes,
should have been al she should have been allowed to punch him in the face because that's
yes,
crazy. I
exactly. It's
wouldn't have
not.
done that because she was an old lady, and that's really bad. I am now the bad guy in that situation. I could not do that. But but the other way around, if I did that to her, she should have been able to elbow me, like, that's
It's just,
crazy.
yeah, it is. I want to ask about, this was a question I actually had before we started, well, before we went live, I think. But this is a question about being a comedian, right? So as a comedian, how do you hold the balance between the humor and also the responsibility of being authentically representing real lived experience? And I'm not asking this in a sense of like you're not showing real lived experiences authentically on stage, but also making sure that there's humor, but it's not hurting you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty good judge of myself. Like, I never feel like I'm putting on an act or acting like someone that I'm not when I'm on stage. Um, I to me, I don't think I've ever felt like I was compromising my actual experiences, for the sake of a joke. Honestly, what's great about a joke is that it's, like, sort of a way of clarifying how I feel and working through something difficult.
Yes.
Because like, there's a lot of people that struggle with, like I mean, that was the subject of, Hannah Gadsby's special, right? Where, they were, saying that what was difficult was that they took something that was a very horrifying experience from their life and they turned it into a joke, but they workshop it in such a way that it has gotten further and further away from the actual, like, experience that was very traumatic and upsetting for them. And that's totally valid for them to feel the way that they feel. But for me, I'm kinda like actually turning it into a story and a funny story um, that is still even if it is heightened and it is further removed from the exact like horrible traumatic thing that happened, is helping me work through something and is
Mm,
helping like me. It's like it's just being a storyteller, right? Is that you like find a way to make something palatable that wouldn't be that might be potentially alienating to someone who's coming to this for the first time. Like I don't see that as creatively stifling, but I'm also again, co- autism's a spectrum and comedy's a spectrum. So there are people that are also going like, I just want to tell the thing that happened to me. You know what I mean? Like without any like kind of comics magician sleight of hand or whatever. And I go, that's also fine. Like that you can also do that and still find a way to make that funny and entertaining. But for me, I'm kind of like, no, I like to clean things up. I try to like make things as concise as possible and as short as possible, just because I like a clean joke. That's just my
mm,
preference for not to watch because I love all comedy. I just like
mhm,
I just mean that to like for me to write because I usually just get bored and I want to move on to something else after I've told like 2 to
mm.
3 jokes about like the same thing. Did that answer the question? I want to make sure I answered that.
Yeah. Yeah, to me it makes sense because it's also like a form of therapy that you're doing while you're actually doing comedy. So for me it's like I'm a
Yeah.
therapist, right? And I'm doing therapy, but I'm also helping myself while
Hmm.
I'm doing the therapy. And I think you're doing the same thing with narrative therapy basically. You're telling stories and it's also you going through the process of whatever you're telling and whatever you're opening up about and that's making it easier. And I think humor is, I mean, we know humor is such a great way of such a great coping skill and it's such a great way of getting through traumatic experiences. So I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
um what about you've worked behind and in front of the camera. I'm gonna just ask you about your perspective as an autistic person that in the influence the way you approach acting and storytelling, right? So working behind and in front, um, how does your perspective like influence the way that you approach acting and storytelling? Sorry,
Yeah,
that
so I'm
was
glad
I
you
just
said.
asked you the same question said twice.
No, it was good. No, 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 it was good. It was good. It's so you. I'm glad you said in front and behind because the behind instance, I wasn't involved as like a camera operator or like a producer, director, writer, or anything. I was brought onto a television show, and out of respect, I don't want to say the title right here, as a consultant to consult on the authenticity of an autistic character in the show, but I didn't really end up influencing anything because I wasn't involved in the writing process. I wasn't involved in anything other than just like cosmetic aspects, like how line reads might be delivered. And the actor that played the character, who I love, he was a really good actor, and I think he did a very nuanced job with the material that he was given. But I felt like I wasn't actually influencing anything, like creatively, socially. Like, I wasn't really giving any input that could change anything because the script was already written. Like, they were already on set and filming it. They just wanted an autistic guy to kinda sign off on it. But in front of the camera, when I was playing the character on, Astrid and Lily Save the World, what was really fun for me was that there was a couple of instances, or rather, really just one instance, where, the directors who were all great, there was 4 directors across that entire series. No, 5 directors a across that series, directing 2 episodes each. They, the director of, like, the 2nd block, uh, they asked me if there was anything I would change, or no, the 3rd block, yeah, they asked me if there the 2nd, whatever, I can't remember. They asked me if, there was anything I would change or if anything I wanted, to change up, and I was suddenly in a position of power there to be like, "Yeah, actually, I do wanna veto that," or, "Yeah, I kinda wanna change that." And I even came in with some notes and some ideas, and the writers were more than willing to accommodate me on that because they were like, "Yes, you are saying these lines. You are autistic. We want to make sure we're not like offending you personally."
That's
So there was like
awesome.
one scene where there was a scene where my character, whose whole deal is that he's really into and this is gonna show how little I practice method acting. I can't remember what if astronomy or astrology is the telescope one. I don't know which is the telescope one or the horoscope one. I don't know.
Astronomy.
All right. Well,
Ast-
anyways, to the 12 people that saw Astrid and Lily, I hope you never watch this to find out that eggs is a fraud. But what I will say was very fun show to work on. But the Yeah, so my character, that's his special interest, and he's the only member of the club that practices astrology, and, so his teacher,
Astronomy.
asks. Thank you. That I again, like, imagine what it was like on
I
set.
mean, it's
Imagine
so
how many
easy to
takes.
it's so
No,
easy to you're
no, no,
making
no,
me
no,
doubt
imagine.
myself. I'm doubting myself now, Michael. Like, is
No, you
this
are not. You're I am
astrology is that's what the
I'm
card reader. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
astro
perfect, perfect, perfect. Astronomy, yeah, yeah, so my character was like, you feel like a classic Gemini. He was practicing no, that's not what he was like. He was like, "I'm into
No,
telescopes."
stop. No, I'm like, no, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
It's
So
astronomy.
anyways, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So anyways, they asked there's a character, my teacher, who's my character's best friend, their science teacher, says, "Hey, I think you should broaden your horizons and stop being into this one thing and do something else so that you're good at a bunch of things." And I said to them, that's kind of a classic trope in autism that it's like you're cutting yourself off from doing other things by being into this one thing. But my thing when it comes to autism has always been people are incentivized people are better at their job if they're interested in it. So why
Mm,
would you take someone away from something that is like track work
mhm,
to get to the job that they want? Like my friend Mason was really into aviation, like World War I aviation, and really wanted to work in with planes someday. And so he just went to his he got an IEP, went to his guidance counselor and said, "What credits do I need to get a degree in a job with planes?" And that was his job. And like and now he like curates tours. So to me, going off that story, I was like, I think eggs, if we want a positive depiction of an autistic guy, it shouldn't be like, no, you need to like broaden your eyes. It's like, no, he's good at this thing. He still has to do the play because the rest of the episode's built around that. We can't not do that. But what is something like I pitched to them, I said, what if the teacher said to eggs, I love you, but you need to join another club because I can't keep staying every day after school till
mm,
sundown waiting with
yeah,
you to like look at the stars. I have a family. I need stuff to do.
mm,
Can you please find one other club to join?
yeah,
Like because I said that's out,
mhm,
and it's like, well, that seems harsh. And I go, no, that's actually a teacher who sees the student as a friend, relating
mhm,
to them on a personal level because they think the autistic person is emotionally intelligent enough to receive that.
mhm,
And I said, "I think that will actually make eggs feel like more of a human being,"
yeah,
recognizing that and going, "Oh, yeah, totally." And so I pitched that to them, and it ended up being something different, but what the final scene ended up being was the teacher going, "Hey, I really need you to be in this play for as a favor to me," basically for a myriad of reasons. He's like, "Can you please do that? I really need your help on
mhm,
this, man." And I went, "Yeah, totally," because I was his friend. So, like, it ended up being really kinda nice and kinda sweet. So, I love
yeah.
how that came together. Now
I really like that they listened to you as well because that's exactly what you said. It's like that teacher is then showing eggs that okay, so you can have your interest, but I'm actually gonna open up and I'm gonna be like super honest with you, which means that we're gonna trust that person because we know that they're
yeah,
not trying to manipulate us, right? Because we can see through that. We could see
yeah,
through the people that say, "Oh, maybe just try this because it's so nice and shiny." I know what you're doing. I know
yeah.
what you're
I
doing,
know what
buddy.
you're doing. Exactly, so it made the
Yeah.
teacher like, I think, it just felt like a more human moment for the 2 of them.
Mm,
Carla, I'm
that's
so
nice.
sorry, but I do have a hard out. Do you have one more
Yes, yes,
question
yes.
or any questions from the audience?
No, I actually think I want to just ask you if you have anything to share of your books or any of the next shows that you have or anything that you want anyone to know about.
Yes, I am doing a run at the Globe Theater in Saskatchewan, in Canada, coming up next March. That is for my play "Funny You Don't Look Autistic," based on my book "Funny You Don't Look Autistic," and that is something I'm really looking forward to. So that's coming up on the horizon as as something for people to maybe buy tickets for.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
so look at Green Thumb Productions, my wonderful producers, to look into getting tickets and finding out more about that. Thank you so much for your
Michael,
time, Carla. That was so fun.
Michael, it was so fun. Thank you so much. And you're amazing. You're funny and interesting, and I think super inspirational for everyone listening. So thank you also for your time. I know that it's limited, and you need to head out.
Thank
Thank you everyone for watching, and remember to check the recording.